Peter Stringer, you're welcome to RedFM. How's it going? How are you?
Great to be here, Dave. Very good. Thank you very much for having me.
You are more than welcome. You've obviously survived Ultimate Hell Week, the professionals, but that's not a given. So I've spoken to Valerie Mulcahy and I spoke to Barry Murphy last week, and I've heard you talk about this. So I have a little bit of an insight into. So I was talking to Barry Murphy of Hermitage Green, and he basically said I had done no prep for this. And I said, well, I heard Peter Stringer talk about it, and he was benching up for weeks beforehand. So what did you know about it that he didn't know?
Well, I didn't really, to be honest. I watched the previous couple of seasons, and you take bits out of it and you try and be as fit as you possibly can. And looking back on it now, if somebody asked me, what can I do? It's not like an exam where you give someone the answer. It's very much a case where you get in there and you don't know how you're going to deal with certain situations until you're actually in them, because some of them you just can't prepare for, in terms of like the constant lack of sleep. I know I'm doing a pretty good job at the moment with 2 young boys at home, but in terms of literally no sleep, no food, and trying to operate at a level where you need to do some serious tasks and you need to be switched on 24 hours a day. For me, I just tried to back my fitness. And for me, I knew that there was going to be an element of having to have some sort of a stamina in terms of strength. I just kept up my gym work. And then you just try and hope for the best. And look, I suppose I had heard initially that this was supposed to be on in November. You try and prepare for it, and then it was put back, and you go about your own business and you forget about it, and you wonder whether the show is going to happen at all. And then we probably heard 4 weeks before it actually was kicking off, and then you kind of vamped up your training again. So it was just, it wasn't easy. It was one of the toughest things I've done, Dave, I must say. And I would be very hesitant to go back in and do something like it again.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, kind of like once bitten, twice shy, and you're kind of like, once you're in it, right, let's go through this as best we can. But if you knew about it the next time. But then again, I suppose it wouldn't work in the same way the next time, because now you know that maybe you did anyway, but the point of it was to break you down. Like even in episode 3 just gone, and we're awaiting episode 4 now this week, Wednesday night, RTE One or 2, whichever. I think it was RTE One.
RTE One, yeah.
RTE One Wednesday 9:30, and literally last week they were saying the what do they call it? OCs? Is it or?
The DS.
The DS. And they're basically like, they've bonded now as a group. This is going to make it harder for us to break them down. And you're like,
yeah. Absolutely. It was, we like very much, it's like a lot of it is an individual thing in your own mind to get you through the task. But then there has to be an element of teamwork to if you're completely in your own mindset, then you're going to lose sight of the team events and you're not going to be part of that group. And I think that was a huge part of us sticking together for so long. You were able to drag other people along who might necessarily have been, I suppose, at the top of their spirits in some evenings that they would have been down, and you rally everyone together. And that was a great, like, I suppose we didn't really know each other. We were thrown into this, group of people, had no option in terms of the tasks, food, sleep. We were in this room together, and you quickly get to know people, and you have no option to, because you have to operate as a team. So look, it wasn't easy. It was the mental side of it, Dave, I tell you, was one thing that I found really, really tough. And I think everyone did as well, that the DS guys would say, look, it's not the physical stuff, because I watched 2 seasons ago and I saw these guys go in, big, strong, physical guys, these CrossFit guys who just love training every single day. And you think, okay, this guy is a definite to finish this, no problem, no questions asked. And then all of a sudden, this guy, he goes into a pipe and this claustrophobia test, and he fails, because this is something that it's not down to your physical strength or anything like that. In your own head, until you're put in a position like that, you don't know how you're going to react. So again, you just don't know. But these guys are just constantly in your faces, and they try and break you. There's never a right answer. You saw from week 1 when I was in charge of the group, and a complete shambles. And like, no matter what I did, they would always find something wrong with it. So, and that's the whole thing. They try and break you.
Yeah.
There's never a kind of, well done, that's what we're looking for. It was always, whatever you do, we wanted the opposite. So look, you try and focus and say, okay, I know what they're trying to do, but I just have to get on with my job.
But then I suppose even as you're thinking that, then you're woken up after 2 hours sleep, then there's water being sprayed in your face, then the lights are being turned off, then the music's being thrown real loud, then you're being shouted at in your ear. Like, it's really disorientating. So it's very hard to stay on any kind of even keel in those. I mean, I joked to Barry Murphy, I was like, you know, the only thing they were short of was sending you to Guantanamo for a little R&R. Do you know what I mean? Because it was almost that sort of like,
that was horrendous.
For AC/DC to be pumped in through the room.
But it was honestly, it was 3 nights before we got any sort of sleep. It didn't show that first night we went to sleep, got into bed at like 2 a.m. The lights went out, cut to an ad break, and it came back in the second part to show us arriving at a beach in the trucks at 4:54. But what it was we were staying in Camden Fort. But what you didn't tell us was we were down in Barley Cove at 4:54. So having got into bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. So what they did was the lights went out, and you got the lights straight back on. So there was no sleep. It was all pretty much like...
How do you get from Fort Camden to Barley Cove?
Well, yeah, that's it. At that time in the morning in this rickety truck, and they made sure that we wouldn't sleep on it either. We didn't know where we were going. It was blacked out, air conditioning, full blast. So it was horrendous. So like it was the third night before we got any sleep, I think, for about a half an hour. Yeah.
Like it says again, this is what I said to Barry too. I was like, in this world of like, you know, hyper health and safety and, you know, everyone being as gentle with each other and understanding of people's frailties and their, you know, and you know, a contrast to years ago where people thought, "Era, just get on with it. What's wrong with you?" and all of this kind of thing. Like, what I said to Barry was, "Did you not read what you signed? Like, were you not aware of what they were like?" So, what level of awareness had you guys as participants in? You know, like, did it say like, you know, be warned, we are going to put you through the mill here?
Yeah, there was not so much written down, but I think from everyone would have seen season 1 and season 2, you know, and you would see the way they'd react to people's actions. They'd see how they would try and break you mentally. And I think what I suppose, you know, there was, regardless of whether you were male, female, big, small, who you were, from what walk of life, you know, you look at the other seasons, or our season, celeb or not, or whatever the term may be, they didn't care. You were coming into their world, and they were going to treat you as though you were anybody else. Like there was no special treatment, and I think they probably even got together as a group and probably said, "Do you know what? These people probably think they're at a level up here. Let's try and break them even more." And we probably had that perception that we were ready for these guys to kind of go, "Okay, who do they think they are?" kind of thing. And we were expecting it, but when it's so much in your face, nonstop, there isn't. I had people were dehydrated. I was dehydrated for the week, or you know, for the week that we were around. It was just like you look at the water bottles needed to be full, right, all the time. And if they tested you and they came to your water bottle and it wasn't full to the very, very brim, you get it over the top of your head. So people weren't drinking. You know, you look at kind of Valerie and Laura, and we were nervous about taking a sip of water the whole time because you just did not know. And it was crazy, just that whole mental side of it. You were on edge. You had to get all your equipment ready. And it was that side of it, that kind of administration, the admin that they call it, getting things organized. Like you're nearly going to bed wearing your full outfit, ready for the next day, because you never know when you're going to get the call to get out of bed. And you have very little time. They give you 15 minutes to pack up your bag, put your bed away, get your breakfast, return the tray. Like it's impossible tasks that they want you to fail on. So it's understanding that and coping with it.
But I suppose, I don't know why I'm focusing on this, but again, when you signed up to this, were you quite aware that, or did you think like, oh, it's not going to be like that, or like they'll film a bit and we'll wander off to the tent and we'll get a bit of food, or you know?
No, we knew that it was very much like the producers told us that, look, these guys, it's their gig, and the only way that they wanted to do this TV show, if it was to be real, I think the UK one has gone away from that a bit. I think it's become a bit the guys running it become a little bit kind of celebrity, and it's run in a way that they might have a couple of tasks in the day and go back for a bit of food. But this is the real deal. These guys said the only way we're doing a TV show is if we're in control of what these guys do. There was no producer stepping in saying, cut, we need to reshoot this. Like there's nothing. Like we were, for the most part, unaware of cameras being around. Like, yes, when you're doing certain tasks, there's a cameraman in the background, but for the most part, you forget it's a TV show. It's that intense that it's real life.
And it is, verging on the sadistic what they put. But I guess their point, and I suppose, I don't know, maybe we see that in the coming episodes. Like, in a way, you kind of go, well, I suppose they're breaking you in order to be able to reform you as a group, to then be able to get you to do what it is the group needs to do, or they need you as a group to do. Is that what the psychology is, or is there ever an explanation as to what the purpose is, what the method is?
I suppose where they're coming from in their real life scenarios and what they do, and I suppose we rarely get an insight into their lives and the jobs that are phenomenal jobs that these guys do, because for the most part you don't hear about the stories. 99% of these stories, a lot of these guys still probably aren't allowed to relay to people of what goes on in their missions. So, I think to do themselves justice and to do what they do and to put it into a positive light, but into, I suppose, a realistic light of the efforts and the work that these guys do, they had to make it like seem that this is exactly the level of what they go through to get their training done. Because I think if they rocked up and they were any bit kind of soft on us and false with us for the TV, that they wouldn't be, I suppose, true to themselves in what they do on a daily basis, because it's a serious job. You know what I mean? And these guys, the level that they operate. So it's
But did they explain what the purpose is, if you get me? You know what I mean? So let's say they've broken you as an individual, or they've broken the group. Do they then build the group back up from that, or is it in order to force you to sort of re-find yourself anew, kind of thing, or what's? Did you get any of that?
It's just each step of the way. They try to, I suppose, to weed out the mentally weaker of the group, because finally when it gets to that stage where you have to go to battle, you have to go on a mission, they need mentally, physically strong people who are able to deal with it. And it's, everything that they do is to try and break you and to try and test you. And the further along you go, then obviously there are team events where you need to kind of, you need to be thinking of, okay, it's not just me in this, I need to be looking out for my buddy. And that was a big part of it and what they were trying to do. It's not just you. Yes, in your own head, you have to try and mentally get through it, but you also have to be conscious of the guy or girl in front of you or next to you or behind you, that you're aware of them, because as soon as someone is left behind, then the group is gone. You know what I mean? Someone's captured, someone's taken away, whatever the case may be. So look, there is probably method to their madness and to their psychotic behavior at times, but it's in that moment you don't see it. But looking back on it, you can see that it's to try and break you, but it'll make you stronger at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, as you're talking about for the real life application of it, it's maybe there's an element of weeding people out, but also there's an element of, like, at a later point, if they're going through very difficult scenarios, they'll be able to go, well, I've already come through very difficult scenarios where I've been tried and tested and been broken and felt my spirits low and been able to come through it. And I did that then, I can do that again. Maybe there's something valuable even in that. But that's what I think is most remarkable about it, is just how unremittingly brutal it is. And it's great fun to see recognizable people being put through this
in pain.
And then as a group, I suppose COVID wise, you probably weren't able to meet up beforehand, so you were very much, that might have even aided it in a way, as opposed to maybe you spending a day together in orientation and, hi, I'm bladdy blad, hey, and how are you? And
we met up the day before. We met up in a hotel in Cork, and literally it was at the time of COVID. We all had our own room. It was very much saw someone in the distance and had our COVID tests, stay in your hotel room. got a wake up call at 4:00 the next morning, and all of a sudden that was it. We were into it, you know. So there was no niceties about it. There was probably a half an hour on a bus of us, you know, introducing ourselves to each other and getting to know each other, and then honestly,
probably whilst hooded or something.
No, this is kind of a blacked out bus. We still had our phones, so they said, look, for as long as you have your phones, you know, the show hasn't started. We were on edge the whole time. We didn't even know, like, when we were meeting up at the hotel, if we were going to be hooded and taken away at that stage. So you just don't know when. But it was just, absolutely mentally draining, and
Well, I want to get almost to the end of it, but let me go to the middle before we go to the end a little bit. And are you aware of the breakdown of the episodes? Do you know some of what's coming in this week's particular episode? Because I know for one thing, Rory's Stories is struggling. So, you know, his is a story arc that you're kind of like, well, where's Rory going to be at in this week's one?
Yeah, it's a good one. I've an interesting. Well, if they showed in this one, it coming up next. There's an interesting encounter with myself and Rory, which I probably can't say much more. So,
cool.
No, like we've an idea, like genuinely, we came out of it, like all of us at various stages, and you try and, you know, we talk to each other, and we were trying to piece it together, you know, because everything was just, like, honestly, even though, you know, it was 2, 3, 4, 5 days for some people, it was hard to put it together in terms of a timeline, because you had no sleep. You had trying to put a running order on it as you were thinking back was so difficult. So like we'd seen the first episode as a group before it aired. That was it. So we haven't seen anything else what the directors and producers have put together. So in terms of an order, like, we have an idea, but in terms of like exact content, look.
So you sit down watching it as well, kind of going, what's going to happen?
Absolutely, tonight? I'm like, I haven't. Like, again, it's not a thing where I haven't seen it before. You feel like you're like.
Are you re-traumatized?
You're kind of watching it in a way that you don't really kind of remember, because of the time you're going through literally hell, and now you can kind of sit back and kind of see it from a different perspective, and like everybody else, sitting on the couch with your you know, with your cup of tea and whatever, and, you know, from the warmth of your home, and like just kind of looking at some of the first couple of episodes, you're thinking, geez, like, that was like, you didn't remember some parts of it happening because it was so full on, it was so intense. You didn't realize they were taking some camera angles and clips from certain things. So it was, look, I'm excited. I'm excited to see every episode, because I don't really know what's coming up, and we don't see like a lot of other people doing tasks. So, you know, that's a new part as well. So obviously we do it ourselves. And, so we're away somewhere else doing something else, and then you see somebody else. And like last week, I didn't know, like, Mark O'Neill was up and he struggled at the edge of the bridge down in Mizzen, and we weren't aware of any of this. So it's really interesting to see how people cope, and people's interviews as well with the DS when the hood's over their heads, because we don't know. We don't talk about that when we come back into the room.
Poor Barry looked like a scared child.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, I'll do better, I promise.
But that was the same as me in the first show. You look back on it, and like, there's, like, people ask, like, there's no acting in it. You could see from people's reactions in their faces, it's 100% real. And you see people coming out of the rooms, and they walk back in once they've had that conversation with the DS. They come back into our room, and like, you're afraid to ask, because you're not really allowed kind of talk about kind of what went on. And, well, you don't know, you're not told, but you're afraid that someone's going to come into the room, and then, like, you just keep your lips closed. So you see people's reactions come in, their faces are drained. Some people have been crying, and you're thinking, like, what has just gone on there? And you just tend to, like, you put an arm around them and say, is everything okay? And then you just move on, because you've no time to have those little conversations. Really, it's just bang, 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 next job.
Episode 4, is there 6 to relate to the 6 days maybe, or something, or do we, and
there
how many people end up in the end, do we know?
There are 6 episodes, and I think you'll have to wait and watch until the final episode. So Yeah, it's
And
yeah,
in the drifting off on the final day, as you maybe all say your goodbyes somewhat sheepishly and somewhat kind of like, what the hell just happened there? And am I okay? And I need a hug.
yeah. I know. Yeah, yeah.
Like how, or even maybe at the point where I don't know the directors or the whoever, everyone goes, okay, it's over now. There's your phones, and you're like, is it really, or is this another trick? Is this
I
another
know.
surprise? Like, how long did it take you to sort of re-enter the real world?
Oh, it was strange. Yeah. Like it took a few days. Certainly, it took me, I suppose 4 or 5 days at home to kind of just to gather my thoughts, to get my sleeping patterns back. Like you speak to everyone, and they were waking up in the middle of the night, and for whatever reason, like you woke up like sweating really badly. Everyone was the same in the middle of the night. I got back home, everyone was like on their, I'd say, second or third layer of skin on their hands, and people like, honestly, you're picking layers of skin off for like, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks after. Just because you were wet, your hands were wet, your feet were always wet, never the chance to dry. So yeah, people are like sharing stories, kind of that were similar, from our experiences in there. But yeah, certainly it took 4 or 5 days to kind of mentally, getting over, I suppose, we're just eating and eating and eating as soon as you come out, because you're starved in there. And then yeah, it was it's bringing back memories again now, Dave.
Yeah.
Just thinking about
it. I'll bring you back.
Yeah, bring me back.
You did have a rap party, and again, was it a case of where you look at your fellow participants and there's that look in the eye? I know, let's talk about it, but not too much.
Yeah. It was. But what? It was nice to get together with everyone, because you're talking at home. I was talking to Debbie at home, and like you're trying to relay everything that happened. You're trying to share the experience, and you can talk to other people about it, and you kind of get all giddy and hyper, and you want to get that, but people are just kind of at the end of it kind of going, look, I wasn't there, I know it was hard, but kind of let's chat about something else, kind of way. And then when you come together with this group, at least everyone was the same, and everything. I know. I was trying to tell people at home, and yeah, my husband and my wife, they didn't know what was going on, and so
I've been psychologically scarred. We shared something. You'd be like the Lord of the Rings actors now. You'll be getting the Tolkien tattoo or something.
Oh my God! But it was genuine like that. Like, even though it was only a couple of days, it was
very intense experience.
Very intense. Yeah.
And it looks it. We'll wrap up. Say hello to Debbie, former Red FM.
Will indeed, absolutely. Yeah.
Oscar and Noah.
Oscar and Noah. Yeah. So Noah's 4 and Oscar's 19 months now. Yeah. 2 of them are they're getting closer, and they're troublesome, little fellas, but they're great crack.
Well, when I joked with Barry, I kind of said the same thing. Like, did you know what you'd signed up to? Like, I mean, like, or did you even read it, or just go, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds fun, and then be like, wait a minute, what's going on? But he said, Dave, I've got 2-year-old twins. I was anything to get away. And I think we basically said something like, so you basically have Ultimate Hell Week every week. He was
pretty much, yeah.
So yeah, my sister has a near 2-year-old, and then people say people are afraid of babies, but apparently it's toddlers you have to be afraid of.
Oh, be afraid when they start walking. That's when you need to be on your guard. Yeah, it's a dream, Dave. Trust me, when they're on crawling around the place and they're not climbing. Oh, and you've 2 of them doing it. Yeah, just you wait.
Oh wow! Fun times ahead.
Yeah.
So listen, brilliant chatting with you, Peter. What does life have you doing these? I mean, you're only 3 years really out of hanging up your boots.
3 years, yeah.
I mean, I'm no doubt everybody's asked you the same sort of thing, but I mean, you're probably still in the transition from that to.
Yeah, it's.
Where's your head at with all that?
No, look, I suppose my headspace is very much like I'm fitness, nutrition driven. That's kind of what's got me to, I suppose, where I was in my career, playing till 40, and I want to continue that. So, obviously I have an interest in the rugby of, working with RTE now for the next couple of seasons with the new URC Ultimate, the United Rugby Championships. So basically, I'll be doing a lot of work with RTE on that, and also, look, I've got a few exciting things coming up. Kind of website launching in the next few weeks, business around that, and it'll be fitness, nutrition driven as well. So. Yeah, lots of exciting things. A gym in the pipeline as well. So we're busy enough as well. With
are you Cork based?
Cork based, yeah, Cork based.
Oh,
so here all the time now, and it's nice. Look, again, I had that couple of years when I finished playing, just to kind of, you need it to get your head straight, and without kind of jumping into something too quickly. And now is the time to kind of, I'm itching to get cracking on something. So there's a few exciting things coming up, so I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Well, good luck with it, and much success to you, and thank you for chatting, and
cheers,
enjoy the rest of Ultimate Hell Week Professionals.
And you too. Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.